Shop less. Shop less. Shop.
Welcome to Shopless, where we meet retail and commerce media leaders and hear their stories on how they became the titans of industry that they are today. As we all know, it's not like you can go to college for retail media. Heck, I didn't even go do marketing. So we're here to explore those paths and unpack some fun, possibly a few side quests while we're at it. Thank you for tuning in, and on behalf of myself, Elizabeth, and Nick, welcome.
Shop less. Shop less. Shop less.
In the race for retail media dominance, most brands are already behind. They're battling bloated tags, 30% data loss from ad blockers, and a 50 millisecond window to reach a shopper before they're gone. Enter MetaRouter. Led by the architect of Walmart's original ad business, MetaRouter is the first mile infrastructure that replaces messy tracking pixels with a single private server-side stream. It's not just about routing data. It's about sub-second identity resolution that turns anonymous browsers into known buyers, all while keeping your first-party data locked inside your own cloud. Stop playing catch-up with yesterday's data. Own the first mile with MetaRouter.
All right, welcome back to a new episode of Shopless, the podcast where we unpack the wild world of commerce media. No shelves required. I'm Nick Weinheimer here with my co-host Elizabeth Marston. Elizabeth, good to have you.
Hey, welcome back, everybody.
Yes, and a very exciting day today. Sun is shining. It's not always the case out in greater Seattle area. Very excited that today's guest and all of your hosts find themselves in the Seattle area for their day-to-day. So that's your first clue, Elizabeth, as I unwrap the package that is this guest. But I'll just jump right into that intro. So today's guest has hopped through more corners of e-commerce than a prime driver on caffeine. He kicked off his career back in '04 wrangling international retail relationships at Boss Industries. Yeah, before social commerce was even a glimmer in Mark Zuckerberg's eye. And from there, he built and sold online tools for sports pros at sportscareers.com. Then came a brief detour into high finance as an RBC wealth management consultant, because what's a little e-commerce without a little mutual fund action? But he missed the thrill of digital marketing faster than you can say buy box. So he drove into Sam's Club, climbing from project manager to director of digital activation at Walmart Global E-commerce. Are you guessing this yet, Elizabeth? Or
We're narrowing the field for
it,
sure.
it is getting closer. But after Bentonville, he spent 3 years leading retail media partnerships at Ahold Delhaize USA. So think local brands getting that Amazon level juice. Next step, CitrusAd. I think you're probably getting close now as SVP of Client Strategy and Development, where he turned retail media spaghetti into a Michelin and a star of strategy. And now, drum roll, please. Elizabeth, who is this?
I mean, it has to be someone I think we recently saw maybe at the Google New Fronts.
Oh, I think you're getting close. He's masterminding Costco's retail media play from the Issaquah Fortress. Please
Mark
welcome
Williamson.
to Shopless. Yes, Mark Williamson. Mark, come on in from the waiting room where you've been so
Hey.
patient.
How's it going?
Good. I had so much fun with that intro. I hope you were okay with it, and that you didn't eat too much retail media spaghetti, last night. So
Yeah. Well, it's I usually don't spend much time thinking about or talking about my career pre-retail media. So, taking a little trip down memory lane there in that biography.
well, you have a pretty nice linear backdrop to what, compared to some anyway, because Elizabeth likes to talk about how you don't go to school for this stuff. I mean, some people do, but most people didn't, like, hey, I'm going to go study how e-commerce and media interact. That's sort of a unique little spot. And maybe you did. Maybe I missed that
I
in
feel
my.
like if you like, I think it depends on how you took notes in college. If you used a laptop or you used a notebook, like what was the most common? I had a paper notebook. You couldn't go to school for this then.
I would say there's definitely no grand design or scheming on where I've ended up in my career, at least not initially. So, I normally credit dumb luck or fortune, which led me to where it was. But What I can tell you is that when I got hired at Sam's Club, it was because of my eclectic background in digital marketing and finance,
Mm.
which, like, if you've been a financial advisor for 1 year, that like hardly made me an expert in anything. But it was enough of a differentiation that the hiring manager for the job at Sam's, she's like, we've interviewed these people, we have a very specific background in mind, and you meet it. And then that was my first opportunity to even learn about retail, let alone retail media. And so, like, everything happens for a reason, but it certainly wasn't by design. Not my design anyway.
Well, when you paint it that way, it is kind of interesting because there have been comparisons drawn between like trading, in Wall Street to trading media, and so they call it, the trade desk, right? And bidding and looking at auction environments, and so some of that, there are, I think, analogies that could be drawn there, but also, I mean, early on, like the Boss Industries, there's some retail, knowledge that you gained at least a working vocabulary, I assume, right?
Well, I'd just say that that was a very small company with a lot of promise, and that was really, I would say, I learned more in that job about business and entrepreneurism and scrappiness and finding a way to make things work than I
Mm.
ever did at college. And
Mhm.
so it's like incredibly valuable experience where, as a young professional, or a young almost professional, to have the opportunity to be hands-on in a variety of aspects of a company. And that's where, like standing up an e-commerce website and automating certain tasks and things, like, and having no background in that at all, but like, oh no, well, I can download Microsoft Front Page and teach myself HTML. And like, what that has to do with what I do today, I don't know if there's a direct comparison, other than this thing doesn't exist, or it doesn't exist here, go figure it out. And so, like, it ends up being like really valuable experience, that at the time it's just kind of having fun and figuring things out, but today I think definitely taught me how to be an entrepreneur.
I wouldn't trade any of the kind of early stage venture back startup work where we were small companies and I got to wear all the hats right after college. It was like, I would argue, the best crucible for learning business in general without like jumping straight into an MBA. I totally agree. Like just you can get the full, so much of the picture wrapped around in your head by stepping through so many of those different parts of the business, so much access.
I
For
literally
sure.
learned WordPress from a dummies book, like early on, because we had a huge I was doing paid search, Google paid search, and we lost a huge client, and they didn't know what to do with me. They didn't want to let me go, lay me off, even though that's technically what they should have done from a business perspective, because there wasn't work. So we started an affiliate program, and I was handed a dummies book and told to figure it out. And so, like, that foundation is forever, right? Like that, go figure it out. So how did you go from that to 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 finance? Like like
uh, yeah, it's a great question.
The promise
So
of all
I
the money in the world falling into your lap in the finance world,
s-
right?
s- yeah, well, I mean, this it's kind of one of those things where if you don't have a plan, you can kind of get tossed to and fro or get seduced by certain things. But I I've always wanted to be an entrepreneur and a small business owner. So that was always my answer. What do you want to be when you grow up? I want to own a small business. Like, what was it even mean? Like, in what? Doing what? I could be a landscaping contractor or a plumber, or I don't know, build websites or whatever. And so, but all I knew was, like, I wanted to be involved in, I don't know, general management, or some type of entrepreneurial activity. And so I was drawn to these smaller companies where I basically, because I didn't have any ideas or any particular skills, I just had drive and ambition. And so, like, the first two kind of jobs that you went through were, I was basically a number two under an entrepreneur,
Hmm.
who had ran a business. And so, like, I was really liked that role where they had already kind of started the thing, they had built the business, they had the value proposition down, but they needed a number two to go figure out other things, because they had their own. One was an engineer and a designer and like a mad scientist, but had no business skills. And then the other one was like this highly connected sports recruiter who just had the whole business figured out and just needed somebody to kind of run the day to day. So, well, he kind of managed relationships and got new business. And
Hmm.
like, I really appreciated learning from these kind of masters of their craft. And then, And kind of honing my skills in other areas. But then, as life seems to happen, I get married, have kids, and then all of a sudden, my wife starts thinking like, "I'd like you to get paid on a steady basis by a payroll department.
Yeah.
I'd like health insurance and some level of security." And so to me, I graduated college a little bit late. I kind of took my time, and so like while all this is going on, it's like, well, I should feel more grown up than I do right now. I should be more stable than I am right now. And so that's really what drove the jump into the world of high finance. Was like, this was the grown up job.
Mm.
And the other things of general curiosity, this idea of like, unlimited income potential, like, yeah, sure, whatever. But it was it was an interesting departure for me, where like definitely learned a lot about that side of the world. It had some success early on, definitely something that could have worked out. um but it did not take very long. Like, this is not for me. And I had clients that were doctors and lawyers who were incredibly wealthy. I'm like, I want someone to manage my money instead of me managing somebody else's money. I want to be something else. And so it was just one of those things where, like, and if you look at the timing, like the year that I spent in that industry kind of coincides with the thing that we refer to as the Great Recession. So it was a very stressful time to be trying to build a business in an industry that was losing credibility very quickly. I pivoted out as soon as the door opened up. So
How many kids did you have at that point?
we had our we had our second right when I started that job.
5?
So
5
five
today?
total right now. Yeah, two
I
at the
feel like,
time. So
Nick, I feel like we have to like mark some of these career milestones with number of kids, right?
Yeah,
Like,
there you
yes.
go.
there is, my wife does like to remind me that every time that we've had a kid, I've made some big career move. Like she's having this big experience and contributing to our family. And so then it's got to be some like subconscious thing with instinct with me, and be like, oh yeah, you can have a baby. We'll see what I can do with my career. We're gonna move to Pennsylvania.
This
And
is
that's an
Mark's
interesting time.
nesting comes in the career step path right
Yes,
there.
yes. I need to make more money. I have more mouths to feed now. Like, and it is like, it's either just completely coincidental timing, or it's something, because not for all of them, but for several of them, there's been like, I've started new jobs. The one of the jobs I took at Sam's Club, I got the job offer over the phone while we were in the delivery room, which is one of our favorite stories.
That's awesome. I can relate though. I
Yeah.
had the first job out of school was in real estate tech at housevalues.com, right as the real estate bubble was bursting at kind of the same time. And all I did was field like 80 to 90 calls a day in the call center from angry realtors blaming me and my company for their business going sideways. And I was like, what?
Yeah,
Like
exactly.
this is the
Exactly.
business world. You guys can have it.
Yep.
Uh,
We learned something along every stop, so I'll take it.
But so I mean, Sam's Club though, kind of after this, right? Quite a nice tour. I mean, I imagine you evolved a lot while you were in Bentonville. I mean, what organization that's, tied very tightly into the Walmart family of companies. There's certainly a whole culture around that. And Bentonville itself is a really fascinating place. Like how was that as an adjustment both for your family as well as kind of getting into an extremely high functioning organization? And what do you think that did for your career?
Yeah, I mean, it did everything, because again, at this point, I was craving that stability and kind of, I would say, more predictable upward mobility, like that structure that you get from a corporation that I wasn't getting from small businesses.
Mm.
But I still want fundamentally this ability to kind of move and shake and build and kind of do that. And so this idea of selling out and going corporate was actually a challenge for me. Like, I was at a point where I needed to shift out of this finance thing into something that was still kind of met that grown up, benchmark and the stability that my family needed.
Mm.
But it's still like it was I was nervous because I'd never worked directly at like a headquarters in a big corporation, and I wasn't sure exactly what I was going to get. And what Sam's Club offered me, and I think this had a lot to do with the leadership that I worked under when I got there, and the business that I was fortunate to be hired to work on, was like I discovered this idea of intrapreneurism, and it's a word, it's like it's fairly made up, but it's not completely uncommon. But like I had never contemplated the idea of scratching the itch I have to be a business builder and a disruptor and to create value and to build teams, these sorts of things, but doing it inside of a highly structured corporate environment. Like I didn't even think that was possible. And so this is where I think the kind of the dumb luck comes in was, right company, right position, right leadership to give me a place to land, to figure out like, holy cow, like this is what I want to do. And so I, fell in love with retail in the kind of this game that we do, but
Mhm.
then also discover this idea, like retail media wasn't really a thing at the time, but this idea of co-op marketing or trade marketing or supplier funding or which kind of evolved into shopper marketing and beyond, like this idea of collaborating with suppliers and brands on media activations or marketing activations, like a world I had zero background in at all. But understanding like, okay, this is a mechanism of value for retailers that can have strategic importance to the company. And then just kind of going along from the ride, what started out with mostly just relationships kind of evolved into, okay, now this is really a tech business, and then okay, this is really a data business, and now it's kind of everything, where there's like to be good at retail media, we have to be good at solving for each of those areas, and then doing it in a fast moving, complex retail structure that doesn't necessarily understand media publishing or what it takes to go to market as a media partner. And so like that was really what was so instructive to me in that first role, was discovering this whole classification of job inside of a corporate environment that I really never knew existed.
So kid count here. You have your third at some point at Sam's Club. Yes?
uh yeah, so the third came along about halfway through our time in Bentonville, and then the fourth came a month before. Let's see, she was born at the beginning of March. My last day with Sam's was April 1st. So
Well, so the
another.
prerequisite for entrepreneurship is the patience required to parent 3+ children, right? I mean, because some people go into big companies and they're like, I can't get anything done. I'm an entrepreneur. I have to be able to fire at the hip. So like you clearly, to be
Yeah.
an entrepreneur, you have to have a really powerful balance between patience for organizational dynamics that are very set in their ways and hard to change, and the change that you want to create. Like that's seems like it's oil and water, right?
Yeah, well, when people question my life decisions around, size of family, like chaos is my normal,
Yeah.
and like loudness is my normal, and busyness is my normal. And so I think there is some truth to that, where I think to be an entrepreneur, and there's actually a book, or actually a couple different books that kind of address this topic, and I don't even remember which one had talked about it, but this idea, like to be an entrepreneur, you have to have all of the instinct of an entrepreneur, but you also have to understand where your bread is buttered. Like you are working with an executive committee that works under the auspices of a board of directors, and there are other stakeholders, and so the ability to patiently navigate that environment is critical. Or else, because that's the thing, I think there's a lot of smart people who could totally make retail media an awesome thing, but they would quit after 6 months because they would just get suffocated by the bureaucracy. And I think that's really like that it really is the key. And so and that's something like, and I was like, I haven't always had organizational patience. I think every kind of bad moment in my retail career has come when I kind of just when I lost that patience, and
Mm.
something wasn't moving fast enough, or something wasn't getting approved or prioritized or whatever it may be. And understanding that sometimes you take an L and you're like, it's just not time for that. Or I don't have unilateral control over everything. These are big matrix organizations that are solving for big problems. And I think what's really helped me is just have that perspective um, of kind of knowing my place in the world. That retail media is like, it may be really loud and really noisy and really exciting and sexy right now. Fundamentally though, it's not better than anything else that's happening at Costco. And so like we could completely fold up our retail media business tomorrow and no one would bat an eye. Or we could eliminate the $1.50 hot dog combo, and half of our members would resign their membership in protest. And so like just just reminding myself that we are a nice cherry on top of a delicious cupcake that other people built over the last 4 decades. Like, it's just that helps me just like, okay, stay grounded on what's
I was
possible.
gonna say, staying
and
humble against the hot dog combo.
Yeah.
I just, but nothing's more humbling than being less important than a hot dog combo.
I look forward to the AI meme of the cupcake and when we release this.
Yes. The question is, who's going to make it near you?
Yeah, your meme skills are on point for sure.
We got to entertain ourselves somehow. So it really, like, I really just seek to entertain myself and then maybe make 3 or 4 people laugh. It's like Nick's one of my muses, as I'm thinking about, like, if I can get Nick's reaction to this, then I'm doing all right. So
there you go. I don't give out those reactions to just anybody. You have to really get a good hot dog game going. Okay, retail media leaders, a quick reality check. You're being asked to deliver incrementality, closed loop measurement, and AI ready data on top of infrastructure built on client-side tags and stitched IDs. Whew. That's the gap. MetaRouter fixes the first mile of your data, moving collection server-side so you get deterministic, privacy-compliant data flowing directly into your clean rooms, CDPs, and activation platforms. The result? Faster sites, materially better match rates, and data you can actually trust across Amazon, Walmart, Google, wherever you're activating. If retail media is becoming a data business, and it is, MetaRouter is the layer that makes the rest of your stack actually work. MetaRouter, fix the foundation, unlock the upside.
Shop.
All right, it's April 1st. We have left Sam's Club. We are now at Walmart, right? Or sort of?
Well, sort of, yeah. So it gets a little confusing there. Like, when Walmart, at about halfway through my tenure there, Walmart reorged their e-com business under a global e-com structure.
Mhm.
And so the samsclub.com business, which had previously reported up through membership and marketing for some reason, was moved under a global e-commerce. And so, like, even though I sat in Bentonville and I worked on the Sam's Club business, my org structure actually reported up through Neil Ash, who's the CEO of Walmart Global E-commerce at the time. So that was an interesting, like a strategically valuable move that they made. But even though, like, I technically was under Walmart Global E-commerce, I always worked on the Sam's business. So.
Got it. And so then this is where Ahold starts then.
That's where Ahold comes in, yeah.
Why Ahold?
Yeah, I don't know. It's so I think I do know. Ahold reached out, and basically their pitch to me was, this retail media thing is getting some attention. We don't have this figured out. We don't have anybody that can figure it out. We have really no shopper marketing structure built out. We think it's important. We think it's something we should be doing. Will you help us build it? I'm like, that's really, for me, like, that's the temptation for me, is I really enjoy the build phase. And again, just going back to that entrepreneurial itch, where things at Sam's had gotten more or less to a steady state, at least at that time. Like, it's grown a lot since I left and smarter people came in and started running it. But yeah, like, you kind of have those first battles. You lay the foundation, you educate the organization on the opportunity and what it takes to succeed. You win some of those first battles, you hire a team, and you get some agencies, and you build some things, and like, it kind of gets a steady state. And then that's kind of where I kind of a tendency to get a little bit bored, or I can be seduced by an invitation to run it back, and start over. And so it wasn't an easy decision. We loved Bentonville, and
I was
Sam's
going to say, that's quite
great companies.
That's quite a switch, geographically speaking.
Yeah, and that was, I guess, I would say we had a harder time leaving Bentonville than I did leaving Sam's. Like, it's just been really good to our family, and good friends, and good friends for our kids, and those sorts of things. But Ahold made a pretty good pitch, and the fact, like, I've always wanted to work internationally, and Ahold Delhaize is, it's a Dutch and Belgian company, and grocery was interesting because there's a lot of SKUs and a lot of brands and a lot of velocity, and so like it felt like, even though Ahold Delhaize was technically slightly smaller than Sam's Club, I felt like it could be a bigger business, just because I thought the breadth of advertising partnerships could be bigger, which may or may not be true. And so, like, that was really what compelled me. But beyond anything else is just, that opportunity to start over, start from the ground again, and then move up. So So yeah, I no regrets on the decision, but it wasn't made lightly. But I definitely took the opportunity.
I mean, so speaking of grocery though, that's when you became a serial entrepreneur or intrapreneur. So
Yeah,
I
yeah.
ruined my joke by saying the wrong word, but serial
It's gonna make
intrapreneur.
it. That's gonna make a terrible meme later.
Yeah, you want to
Yes.
run you want to run that back,
Dude.
start with the right aisle there, I guess.
Ugh.
Yeah, I love it.
And
Yeah.
that was a good chunk. I mean, you were there for five almost 6 years, right?
Yeah. So and it was an interesting journey where where everything changed at all. So when I joined, I joined Ahold USA. Like they had announced their merger with Delhaize. And so I knew there was going to be a merger, and you don't really know the outcome of that. And you think, okay, well, Ahold's a bigger company. It'll be the bigger fish. I'm on the right side of this. And then, a year later, they're like, okay, we're blending these companies together. We're going to decentralize. And so like what does that even mean? So now I'm going to work for a different center organization that's kind of a service organization to these local brands and all this stuff. And then so a little bit of like just like unpredictable chaos in the journey. But every single shift throughout each of these reorgs and these repositions, that kind of thing, retail media continued to be at the forefront of kind of the strategic imperatives. So whether it's media monetization or data monetization or shopper marketing or whatever it may be, there was still this appetite by the broader organization, the parent organization, to move this agenda forward. And so what it afforded me though was the opportunity to not only be a part of the retail media business build out, but also the omni-channel transformation that they underwent. And so while all this was going on, Ahold owned the Peapod asset, the business out of Chicago, and they had brought, the grocery delivery business, and they had brought some of those capabilities into the Northeast. And and the decision that was made by the company to shutter operations of Peapod in Chicago to focus on driving an omni-channel transformation within the core brick and mortar business was a huge decision. But like having a front row seat to that whole process, and then all the innovation required to pull that off, and then building retail media on the backs of a transitioning omni-channel retailer was really exciting. And I think to me was the most valuable part of that experience was to see the power that had when you're reacting, making very, very hard, bold decisions in reaction to what your customers are telling you now and where you're predicting things are going to go. And which I mean, I credit the leadership of the company for making that decision, because it was incredibly disruptive. But you see kind of where they're at now. Definitely the right decision to do that. And so it just like the whole experience with Ahold Delhaize was very, very educational. Not an easy environment to work in. Being a center organization guy in a hyper local organization
during
that is
during
decent.
COVID. This is where you spent
During
your COVID
COVID,
time
yeah,
too,
this is where I spent my
right?
COVID time. Man, grocery and COVID was interesting, and yeah, all this transformation was happening like right at the beginning of COVID. So like, just throw fuel on the fire, but that'll definitely motivate you to move as fast as you can, in standing up pickup and advancing your delivery agenda. So yeah, it was very interesting times for sure, because COVID and grocery was an interesting experience.
Did you work from home then for part of it, or did they like find out? I was gonna say, because there's so much going on, I can see where it would be like hybridy.
Yeah, no, it was actually a lot of work from home. It took a while to get back into a situation. I think for merchants and operators, always a different situation. But for us, for those of us that are, I would say, not so business critical or more maybe back end, definitely spent a fair amount of time at home.
The essential
So it's funny.
workers.
So you moved from Bentonville to work from home in Pennsylvania.
Yeah, exactly. And then after the decentralization, the office I moved to be in didn't really matter anymore. And so my company actually was headquartered in Chicago. So I spent an awful lot of time on planes going back and forth.
Interesting.
And kids 4 and 5 are during the Ahold phase, or just
just five, because
Just
four
five,
four
right.
cut the tail end of Sam's, then five
Oh,
showed up.
funny.
Yeah.
Was this
And then you have
March,
to go
and then
to
April he moves, to
and then you have to go to Citrus.
Yeah. And so yeah, it's a certain point, built programs for two different companies, and I maybe it's the 6-year itch, like, because Sam's was 6 years and Ahold was 6 years, and kind of just wondering what's next, and in talking with, a trusted network and friends and these sorts of things, a lot of encouragement to try the vendor side of the business, and which was kind of scary, but something I was curious about. And again, like I'd done this intrapreneur thing for a while, which has its pros and cons. Like not all gumdrops and lollipops, being an entrepreneur. And there's certainly challenges of working in a big corporate environment. So then this was like, okay, well, at the time Citrus was, again, I have interesting timing here. The Publicis acquisition was announced, but still kind of working through integration. But CitrusAd itself was still kind of felt like a startup to me. And I knew the CEO and I knew the founder, and I knew the right people to kind of get a sense of what the company was like. But it wasn't like super high risk, like startup, like in seed funding kind of situation. It was well
They
capitalized
had
and well
health
supported,
insurance
and
as your
yes, they had health insurance and a payroll department. And so like that was the idea, was like I got to try this smaller company thing and see if this is something that would stick. And so yeah, that was a departure from the plan that I found interesting, and ended up being, again, like good experience, good education, good connections, all sorts of things. But
where did you geographically live during this time?
well, yeah, because Citrus was more or less a remote company, and this is still kind of half in, half out COVID. Like this is toward the end of like not the big lockdowns, but the more like the lingering lockdowns. So I never moved. We stayed in Pennsylvania and just worked remotely.
Is one of those side thing. I did some, Zoom conversations with Brad and Nick, or kind of during the pre-Publicis acquisition, and had a chance to meet Brad in real life, and I was like, oh my gosh, you were an extremely tall individual. It's
Yes.
like it's one of the
No. Yeah. Well, as my Brad experience was, I met him for the first time at the table meetups at Grocery Shop or Shop Talk, one of the two.
yeah.
This is before the event itself was as huge as it is now, and way before CitrusAd was even on the map. Like he was just flew over from Australia, and him as the founder was sitting there having these 10-minute conversations with retailers, and this was before COVID. This was like the last event before COVID shut everything down. And he's incredibly tall, and but we had a good conversation about like whatever, Australian tech, never heard of it. And then fast forward 2 years later, and they're selling the Publicis group. I'm going to go work for them. I'm like, who would have thought? Because like this was the most simple, humbling experience, just to have this little conversation with the founder. But he's out there doing what entrepreneurs do, doing the dirty work and making the connections and turning it into something meaningful. So yeah,
Well,
he's very tall.
The Shop Talk speed dating, or the grocery shop speed dating.
Yeah.
There must have been
good.
There must have been some benefits that you missed from working in like what are the benefits for working for retailers? Because you've been in it with with Sam's, and then Ahold, and then your next step, which we'll get into here in a second, is with a retailer. Like what are these benefits? It can't all be the $1.50 hot dogs. Like
No, which I pay full price for. So I think the thing that I learned, being, I would say, like on the Citrus side, I did a lot of consulting. I spent a lot of time with like C-suite folks, CEOs and chief merchants and heads of e-commerce and these sorts of things, just to talk about why you should do retail media. And if you decide to do it, how should you do it? What's the value of a partnership? What orders, like really taking this more as agnostic approach I could. Like if I worked for you, this is the advice that I would give you in terms of getting this thing stood up. And I really enjoy that part of it, because that's more or less what I do today, and what I've done. The part that was hard for me is giving the advice and then watching somebody else go and do it. Like that was, I missed getting my hands dirty and having that ownership, because that's again like that entrepreneur spirit. Like I wanted something that I had emotionally invested in, and then and sacrificed to work for. And so that's really like that's the main benefit for me, is that ownership is what comes from the retailer side, which is again good and bad. It comes with accountability, which can be crushing sometimes. But like that's what I really like. And retailers are just interesting companies to work for. And I feel very comfortable here. Like I have a high degree of respect for like the frontline operators who are out on their feet all day long working with customers, and being able to support that. Like for whatever reason, like there's some purpose embedded in that that is bigger and more important to me than a piece of software or a service that's provided or that sort of thing. So I a high degree of respect for what retailers have done for a long time and for what they do, the values they stand for. They all have similar values, but they all kind of have their unique twist on things. And so I don't know, I try to drive my purpose in life from things I do outside of work, but like for my career and for what I'm choosing to spend my time on and how I'm choosing to provide for my family, it helps to have that that extra little oomph, because like if I look at a place like Costco, is a very strong culture, and people that have worked here for 20, 30, 40 years, I get to draft off of that a little bit, and it makes me feel like I'm a part of a team that means something, which I couldn't get, I don't think, from exactly the way I'm looking for it from other companies.
100%. I
How did
mean,
Costco find you?
I do
Where
get
did
a
you
free
find Costco?
executive membership. So
Okay,
that
I was
is
gonna ask. I
that's
was
it's a
kind of
nice
curious
perk.
from a membership perspective.
Yeah.
So did Costco find you, or did you find Costco?
Man, serendipity. I was introduced to Sandy Torrey, who is now retired, but she was SVP over membership and marketing, by someone I worked with at Sam's Club. And so it was actually when I was thinking about my next move after Ahold, I was just kind of talking with people, and she works at an agency that supports the Costco business, and all she said was like, I know you, I know Sandy, I think you guys will like each other. Just reach out and have a conversation. And so so sometime in the dark days of COVID, we had a phone call. There's no reason for her to take the call, but she took it, and there was no agenda. Just like, hi, I'm Mark, this is what I do. She's like, I'm Sandy, this is what I do. And we just talked. And that's really where it started. And then if you fast forward about 2 years, and then just kind of intermittently, then I end up going to CitrusAd, and Costco's just out, saving the world with port strikes and inflation and supply chain issues, going like doing the important work, which kind of put retail media at the back burner. But we stayed in contact, and then one day when the time was right, the right people asked Sandy, like, "Hey, do you know anybody that knows about retail media?" And she's like, "Yeah, I know a guy." And that's really how it started, was that. So I think we found each other, I guess.
Oh,
and
and then obviously
Yeah.
you moved here.
Yes, that was a precondition for employment. I fought it tooth and nail and lost. So I live in Seattle now. Neighbors.
That's not so bad here. I like it here.
On days like today, it's fantastic. No, it's been very nice. It was not the plan, and it took us a while to accept our fate, of like, we're, it's not going to be warm and sunshine, which is what my wife wanted. But the job itself was just like the answer had to be yes. Like, this is too big of an opportunity for us to say no to. And then we'll just make Seattle work. That was kind of the deal that we had, and we'll travel a lot. Like that, we lied to ourselves and said we do that. But the truth is, though, we're still working on Seattle feeling like home, but we have very much enjoyed this, much more than we thought we would. Like, we're not enduring the Pacific Northwest. We live here, we're getting used to it, and the good days make the bad days, or the darker, rainier days worth it.
Yeah, it does take some doing. Like when it gets dark at 4:30, because I grew up here, I didn't know that it's not normal to have 10 p.m. in August to have sunlight still out. Like, I just thought I forgot how far north we are. And then somebody pointed that out to me and went, oh yeah, well, I guess the inverse is that 4:30 p.m. pitch blackness. So here we are.
That's right. The sun giveth and the sun taketh away.
In those dark days, it's all about keeping active and exercising. And at Costco, there's certainly a lot of wood to chop when you arrive to keep you active, and engaged in the dark days. I mean, you got a big club sales organization. It's not as natively e-com, didn't acquire Jet and go through everything that Walmart and Sam's did. And you arrive, there's a lot to do. And that's kind of question one. And then second part of that question is, how are you? As you look at this at this business, how are you kind of rationalizing with the leadership that you have to get to shift their approach? What does retail media become as the thesis? There's a lot of other retailers. It's like, oh, here's a big billion-dollar margin opportunity. Let's go make profit. There's something maybe a little different at Costco, but like, I'd love to get that storyline from you.
Yeah. So I would say the genesis of the retail media ambition is anchored in a relentless desire to deliver value to members. And so I think the apprehension to enter this business over several years was because it's always been characterized as a margin grab, as an other income, an other revenue stream, and whatever it may be. And so whether that's how retailers talk about it in their financial, their financial reports, or how they show up in interviews or at events or whatever, it's always kind of been the focus is on this idea of ancillary revenue streams, high profit margins, and these sorts of things. And so it wasn't until there was an appetite to build this business for the express purpose of giving money back to our members. That's when everybody got serious about it. It's like, okay, this is a business that we need to be in. And so there are and I think in that purpose, we've really tried to stay true to since the beginning, which is remembering why we're doing this, because it is super tempting. There's so many things we could be doing right now just to generate more revenue from a media sales perspective, but those things are not directly connected to the purpose that we set out to accomplish, which is deliver member value. And so that is really that's I always say that's our North Star in all of this. Now you get down to it, cool, we can be altruistic and speak in big platitudes about how we're member centric. Great. I still have to sell media to agencies who have very big demands and have expectations
is quite demanding,
of how things work. Yeah. So that reality doesn't change just because people get really inspired by the purpose. Yeah, that's great. Costco seems, we're good. We all want to sell more things to more people more often. Great. But from an operational perspective, functionally speaking, we still have to create an ecosystem that is powerful and capable and functional from an agency and a brand perspective. And that's where we haven't been very good. Costco is very collaborative with suppliers, from all the way through the supply chain, all the way through the value chain. There's a high degree of collaboration with buyers and suppliers and just going through all of the nitty gritty. And it is in service of lowering costs as much as possible. It is also raising quality as much as possible. Costco isn't cheap. You don't buy cheap goods at Costco. You buy high quality goods at the lowest possible price. That doesn't happen without intense supplier relationships. And so we're trying to take that same model and say, okay, well, what if we were intensely collaborative with brands and agencies as well? And if you're a supplier, you're trying to distribute your products in a Costco warehouse. If you're a media buyer, you're trying to distribute your media to a Costco audience or on a Costco website or whatever it may be. We have to have the same kind of relentless pursuit of excellence and collaboration within that demand chain or that media supply chain, just like we are on the product side. And but that is a fundamental shift because we don't have a strong legacy of digital marketing and of data-based, interest-based advertising. We don't buy media as a company. And so when I arrived, we don't really have a traditional digital marketing team that buys search and display and connected TV.
Right.
Because if we did, they would have already said, I need audience building and I need to manage identity at scale and I need to manage consent at scale. I need to have access to a DSP to place my media buys. I need a media agency to help me with these. None of these actual things had been figured out. We had learned, previous to me, the team had learned about on-site publishing and email partnerships and some of the things within our own and operated properties. Yes. And we've been partnered with Criteo for a while on sponsored product ads. And so there's definitely some foundational elements of retail media that predate the establishment of a formal retail media program at Costco. But if you think about what we actually want to accomplish and the power of collaboration that we want to attain and to compete with really, really good, smart people like Amazon and Walmart and Instacart, and now Uber for some reason is going crazy. To actually compete in that space, we have to be very, very good at unlocking the power of our data and driving relevant member experiences as much as absolutely possible. And that does not come easy. It doesn't come cheap. And it doesn't come quick. And so I described the last year and a half.
Not easy, not cheap, not quick. And you're going to go to the C team here and say, hey guys, you want to do this?
And to Costco's credit, I will tend to provide two different options. We can outsource all of this stuff, and this is what it costs, and this is how it this is what would be necessary from a data governance and a privacy standpoint. Or we can do the harder work, which is to build more of these things, or like orchestrate it in our own design, and live within what we call privacy by design principles, where we have more control over our data. And we still need partners, we still need platforms, we still need tools, but we're going to interface with them differently. But in order to do that, we have to be more in control, which means we need people, we need advertising operations, we need sellers, we need ad tech engineers, and we need product owners and product manager. Like,
Yeah.
this is what we're talking about if we're going to actually be in control of this. If not, we can move faster. There's many people who would love to be partnered with us, but in order to do that, we have to ship a bunch of data out of our ecosystem. And so, like, there's always a choice in everything. Like, there's always trade-offs and these sorts of things. And so, to Costco's credit, though, we really, really want to do this right. And so they have been supportive as we've done the boring, unsexy foundational work required to be able to put the sexy tools on top of it. So, like, yeah, we want self-serve. Cool. Self-serve only works if you're activating against good data and good information and good signals that are activating in real time. Well, to do that, you need to have a strong data foundation within a private cloud environment that has the ability to manage consent at scale, to manage identity at scale, to build audiences, and then maybe even, go figure, use some AI to suggest some audiences. And then those audiences have to be activatable in our own and operated ecosystem within all of our ad serving and content serving tools. They have to be activatable outside of our environment, which means you need to figure out how to attach to some sort of digital identity. Like, all of these things have to be figured out before we can even have any ad worth selling. And so, like, that's really been the process of, like, going back and saying, okay, what things can we build just blue sky? And that's where we've really focused on our offsite business, because that is just all blue sky and easier for us to kind of build that assembly. This next year, we're shifting into our onsite ad serving stack to ask the same thing. It's like, okay, like, the way that we're serving right now, is it fully informed by all of our data that we've made available? And is it like, do we have technology that's plugged into our data stack? And then, is it addressable? Is it accountable? Is it measurable? Is it all the things that we all the things that we need to hold ourselves to account for? If not, we have to go address that. And so, like, we like, I don't know, we've stripped it down to the studs, but we've definitely gone back to the beginning and said, like, to scale this business and do it the way that we want to without compromising our principles, we're going to have to really take a serious swing at this, which, again, it's not easy, it's not quick, it's not cheap.
Yeah.
What I like about it, though, is because you didn't run to the market in, like, Costco, relatively speaking, in, like, 2014, where you walk into a room in Amazon, find some engineers and go, hey guys, I wanted you to build a thing. It looks like what Google has. Okay, thanks, bye. And then, and then for 5 years, you're just, like, constantly trying to, like, it just moves and shifts and it's not quite right. And this is missing. And that is missing. It used to be back in the day, you would update a bid and it would take 2 days to take effect, kind of thing. So I love hearing, like, that checklist. You just literally just gave everybody, like, the checklist. Here's how you build a retail media network. I hope everybody will listen to the checklist and take it internally, but also, like, from an educational standpoint, like, what it takes to do it right. And as someone who grew up here in the 90s and used to go to Costco with their mom, on Saturday sample day, like, living and breathing over here. I can see Kirkland from Kirkland City from my house. Like, I appreciate that Costco is continuing that value set and that like, just won't let go. Like, and it's funny is we've always looked at the Costco has always struck me as somebody who's looked at the long term. It's not 2 years from now, it's not 3 years, it's 20 years from now, and, like, what this is going to look like.
I have nothing to add to that other than you're right on all of it.
Well, I lived here. I still live here. I love it. I'm obviously a Costco member. I've actually never even been in a Sam's Club. I said it. I'm sorry.
So I'm the hybrid, because I grew up until I was 13 in the Midwest, and we go to Sam's Club on sample day with my grandfather, and that was like the end all be all. And if I was good, we got to go to Subway for a sandwich afterward. And it was pretty exciting. And then moving out here, I mean, like, Costco, what's this? And it's like a cultural phenomenon. I mean, people wear sweatshirts with Kirkland signature all over it, like, it's like it's a fashion statement now. That's
the number
a
of people I have to
cool.
explain to that is a real place. And in the 1800s, it was actually the summer vacation spot for Seattleites, because it was so far, right? Because we didn't really have roads and cars, so they would actually The summer or the second homes were in Kirkland for the wealthy Seattleites. Kid you not. Fun
You,
fact.
you had to take a ferry across Lake Washington to get there.
Right.
I
Exactly.
guess.
And can you make a
Yeah,
birdie with the Kirkland signature golf ball in it at Sam's Club? I don't think so.
yeah, yes, for sure. No, I did like I'm a huge fan of the club environment. It's like my family loved being Sam's Club people for very long. Like again, like we raised our kids in Sam's Club. Like they like that like when you're young and poor, like you go to Sam's on Friday night and we'd feed the whole family for $8. And then they got older and that's still what they would ask. Like, can we go to Sam's? And so it's been actually an interesting shift for them to work into the Costco culture, because when you live in Bentonville, there's no Costco. And then where we lived in central Pennsylvania, like there were 2 Sam's Clubs before you got to a Costco. And so we kind of like, okay, well, we'll just like, as curious I am about Costco, I'm like, I don't need to go that far. I'll stay here. And so it's been an interesting journey um, to be one on the inside for me, but then for my family to be in a culture. And it's not just in Seattle, like the Costco, cult knows no boundaries, but the just that energy is just, it is entirely different. And it's like before joining Costco, I'm like, Sam's and Costco are pretty similar, but like it's not true. Like there are so many distinct characteristics between the 2 different companies. And it's been like this, like the Costco cult following and the fangirling and the fanboying, like it is so real. And I love being able to be associated with it, because like it does, whether it's it's discussions like this or business meetings or personal meetings or whatever. Like I work for Costco. Almost every single person will say, they'll say how long they've been a member, what their favorite Kirkland signature item is, or what thing that they just love to buy. And everyone's got an opinion. And like that's a really cool energy that like people love their grocery store or like their grocery store. They don't have like this emotional relationship with it. And Costco is one of those unique retail brands that transcends that. And that's a nice benefit of being an employee that I didn't really anticipate, because I didn't feel it at the other places.
Well, the inverse is, so technically, so for our listeners, technically Costco is what we call on the east side. So there's a lake, and it is not technically Seattle, and there is a slight cultural difference between the west side Seattle and the east side where Costco is. Because if you go to South Lake Union, that is where Amazon is and all their buildings, and their culture permeates through that geographic area as well. And they also like to ask each other how long they've been there. It's like the first question they ask each other, and what color their badge is. And they also have an emotional connection, but I wouldn't necessarily call it always a positive one. In the race for retail media dominance, most brands are already behind. They're battling bloated tags, 30% data loss from ad blockers, and 50 millisecond windows to reach a shopper before they're gone. Enter MetaRouter. Led by the architect of Walmart's original ad business, MetaRouter is the first mile infrastructure that replaces messy tracking pixels with a single private server-side stream. It's not just about routing data, it's about sub-second identity resolution that turns anonymous browsers into known buyers, all while keeping your first-party data locked inside your own cloud. Stop playing catch-up with yesterday's data. Own the first mile with MetaRouter.
We want to ask you a little bit about your favorite conferences. And I know sometimes not only do you attend, but you speak at these, and sometimes not only at one in a given day, you're sometimes speaking at 2 different conferences in one day when you go to. Tell us a little bit about your favorites. What do you like to hit, miss? What do you think is on the rise?
Yeah, so just in general, there's too many of them. So
Yeah.
like that's my
We hear that.
So I don't want to speak disparagingly about any of them individually, because I haven't been to many of them because there's so many and it's physically impossible. Like my I always said, like, rather than maybe calling out names, but like my favorite forums are more of the meetup format. So like when I go to conferences, I usually don't do breakout sessions or any of the formal educational stuff. Like I think they have their value. Like, and there's members of my team that are kind of newer to retail media, and I think there's value in those forums. But for me, I spend my time in meetings, and so before I commit to go to a conference, my first question is, are the people that I want to talk to there? Like, is this an efficient use of time? And so like I don't know if I work harder than I do than when I'm at conferences, because it's 1 day or 2 days. and you got to pack in everything. I'm usually just back to back to back to back, because that face-to-face interaction is important. Like we do a lot of, especially after COVID, we do a lot of virtual meetings, but in this, there's something about that, the relationship and the conversation and getting things done, or having all the right people in the same place at the same time, where we don't have to keep traveling back and forth to each other's headquarters. So like that's really what I is kind of my filter for where I'll show up, is are the right people there. And sometimes it's technology partners, sometimes it's suppliers and their shopper marketing teams or whatever. And then one thing that, like for Costco, we're very cognizant of is that we have been invisible to the agency world. Like we have not had a mechanism to interface with them and have strategic conversations with them and make sure that what we're building is going to reflect what they're going to be very interested in using. And so, like for me now, I'm trying to focus most of my attention on those engagements where I'm going to have the ability to interface with agencies and really keep Costco top of mind in a very noisy space. So yeah, like and there's other stuff like, shop back and grocery shop we talked about a little bit earlier. Just, it kind of feels like everyone's there, and they do a really good job with the meetups. But again, like even if I don't use the speed dating apparatus, I still know people are there, and we can connect. Everyone always asks if we're going to Cannes. I don't know if that's ever going to happen. It feels so off brand for us. But if you told me 10 years ago that Walmart would go to Cannes, I would have told you you're crazy. And yet LinkedIn tells me they're going to be there, and I need to schedule an appointment on their yacht. And then, and Possible's kind of popping up. And then I said no to CES for many years because I'm like, what does this have to do with retail media? But then I gave in and I went. I'm like, oh, I get this now. And so to me, it's more about like quality versus quantity. And the quantity is just out of control. And my whole thing is like, can we just all agree to be in the same place at the same time once a quarter? I don't care where it is or what it is or what we call it or whatever, but I do really appreciate the meetup thing.
Yeah, you can do a month of work in 2.5 days, whatever it ends up being.
It is. I find them very efficient. Yeah.
I'm very exhausted by the end of CES. And at first I was like, why am I going to the electronics show? Like, I don't have TVs. I don't have, and then you get there and you're like, well, actually 5 years from now, probably very much, we will talking about in-store experiences as it relates to hardware, like very tactically.
Yeah, and I say the thing is like, part of it is like you kind of have to go and figure it out. But like I've been to CES now 2 years in a row, and I was like, oh, cool. What tech did you see? I'm like, I never went to the convention center. I was at the area the whole time, going up and down elevators for 15-minute meetings, and so I never get to see any cool tech at CES. I make
it a point to go down or up to Las Vegas Convention Center because the female quotient has a fantastic tour every year on the first day. And so they do like the power of walking the floor. And so when you get to walk with 300 women across the CES floor, that's pretty cool. So I know you can't do that. Well, allies are welcome as well, but I do recommend checking it out.
No, good to know.
Thank you so much for being our guest. We're very excited to see how things evolve and mature with Costco and your career in general. And thank you for being willing to share your thoughts and your history here. It's awesome.
It was awesome. Thank you.
Yeah, my pleasure. Thanks for the conversation.
Absolutely. Have a great afternoon.
You too.
Shop less.